Welcome back, everyone. Okay, something unexpected has happened to Diablo Immortal in what is almost certainly the game's most important market. It's been said to me that the part of this game that is really there to make the money is aspects of the PvP system, how that ties into pay to win, and how apparently that is something that is believed to convert extremely well in the Chinese market. It therefore is interesting that Diablo Immortal is not coming out in its planned release date, and some very strange things are afoot. So, it's not out in China yet. It's also not out in other places in and around the region, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Its planned release date was the 23rd of June. But as of the 19th of June, that's actually been delayed due to optimization. Basically, the machine translation says, support for a wider range of models and devices, the highest quality rendering and more models, a lot of experience, network and performance optimizations, and more. Okay. Now, optimization, which is fine for every other region.
Yeah.
So, do they have optimizations that are maybe specific to phones that are popular in the region or something like that? We're not sure, but it is at least odd that this kind of happened very late. Now, as a result of this, Chinese players are being given an exclusive thank you package that does contain a bit of legendary equipment and some resources. However, as Daniel Ahmad, who is a specialist for games coming out in China, said basically that the delay is coming quite shortly after their Weibo account was actually, sort of banned. So the account still exists, but they're not able to make new posts. And that is certainly a bit strange. Now, the Financial Times are basically suggesting that this could be because of a post from a NetEase profile on the Weibo platform that made reference to Winnie the Pooh. Now, making reference to Winnie the Pooh does not mean over here what it does over there. It is seen as mockery of, I forget his title exactly, but basically the leader of the party, Xi. So, this is what the South China Morning Post reports. It's worth saying the South China Morning Post is kind of like official, sort of party owned. The official Weibo account of Diablo Immortal, which currently has around 46,000 followers, was forbidden from posting as of Wednesday, according to a tag on the platform. They basically, nobody's actually said what the specific, infraction is here. I think it's noted that a ban on new posts is relatively light because, you look at the older posts, they're still all up. But it is still strange, and a post about the upcoming launch on NetEase's news portal, 163.com, that's also been taken down. So this is all weird, right? This is not if you're Blizzard and you are expecting a big chunk of money to come in from the Chinese market, you don't want a situation where your partner, the partner who's responsible, well, in this case, co-development, but also for releasing the game in China, where they're having the social media profiles locked down, and there's strange things afoot, and now there's a delay. Certainly makes you wonder what's going on. So this is all very strange, and that level of uncertainty has been reflected in the markets with a bit of a dip to the share price.
Yeah, I think I just looked at it there. It was around 8.5% from the Wednesday, Thursday to the Friday, which is a pretty substantial for people going, oh shit, there's something in danger here.
Yeah.
And it might seem like 8-9% might sort of be a little bit of an overreaction for what's hey, it's a bit of a delay. So I don't know if there's maybe people reading into it and going, this may be a little bit more than kind of meets the eye there, or if it is just markets going, oh, I'm not getting my money immediately, throw my shares away. Hard to kind of tell, but there's certainly more to the story.
Yeah, so the official website basically says that the game is being delayed so they can get some extra time for, optimization and things like that. And the release has also been delayed in a few of the other regions, in Indonesia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. It's been delayed to July 8th.
If they get a date, China doesn't.
Yeah, that's it. So China does not have a date. These other regions do. China does not. So that's weird. I think that's perhaps one of the things that analysts are now looking into.
Yeah, because obviously it's analysts talk about this and being more specific to NetEase. But specifically, I was saying that in the latest wave of game approvals, the government very intentionally avoided doing anything from Tencent or NetEase. So it seems like instead of being a wider range, it is actually kind of focused on these companies. And especially when it comes to what the Chinese government are likely to do, whenever you've got a post that maybe makes reference to Winnie the Pooh, it could be the case of the government literally is going, you stepped over the line, we will punish you. And not in a super strong way or public way, but exactly where they hurt. Which is, oh, you're about to release a new game? No, you're not. That's like the, I guess the conspiratorial kind of view of it. That's whether that's actually true or not. But it is very much the case that the regulators are definitely looking into this.
Yeah.
Very, 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 not this specifically, but the regulators are really tightening down on stuff like this in China.
So there's a senior analyst, Weiser Ling, who said this is more specific to NetEase. Maybe the market is worried that this is a larger issue with the regulators. Some Diablo contributions should already be penciled into, I suppose, second half for consensus. So I think that's just the idea of, count it out for June. So it's strange, right?
Yeah.
Now, Morgan Stanley, of course, they're fairly important. And here's just what they've basically said, that in the worst case scenario, Diablo Immortal could run into a so-called Black Swan event, similar to what happened with Tencent's DNF Mobile. Now, that Dungeon Fighter mobile thing is like actually pretty major. So Dungeon Fighter, back whenever we used to get, what was the firm? It had all
It was Super Data stuff.
Yes.
Super Data, which was a Nielsen firm, used to continually report like the highest grossing PC, mobile, and console stuff. And like time after time after time, the top one globally on PC was Dungeon and Fighter, as it's called in Korea, or Dungeon Fighter Online, as it's called here. Arc System Works are releasing Dungeon Fighter DNF Duel actually later this month. So it is a very big property and it's kind of pushing its way a little bit around the place outside of being super strong in Korea. And what happened to it was that game was supposed to release in August 2020 and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on with this? And it's now actually out now. I think it's out in maybe 3 months, but that was like a 1.5 year delay because they were saying this needs the anti-addiction stuff. This needs Tencent's anti-addiction measures put in the game because I guess the government were just like, we see how much money you're making. We see how strong this IP is. We see what this game is like. You're doing gangbusters in South Korea and you're trying to spread. Not in our turf. Without the protections in place.
Yeah. So it's in that context where, of course, NetEase, Tencent, very big companies, obviously competing in the gaming space. And we have a fairly, in these cases, like with Dungeon Fighter, a very large release with a very large delay. We're now wondering if something could happen to Diablo. And that would be terrible because China is expected to be the game's largest market because over there, people are way more accustomed to the freemium business model, right? It's just more of what happens. They didn't really have access to game consoles in the way that we did, right? And that means that just sort of whole notion of, there you go, the $60, $70 game, sort of less of a thing. Had a massively expanding middle class, right, over like the last large number of years. That also happens when we're seeing more smartphones being developed. Of course, all the smartphones developed in China. Sort of that's proliferating smartphones into loads of people, and it ends up in this situation where China is mostly a mobile and PC market rather than a console one, which I suppose comes with it more opportunity for free to play to be the predominant model.
Yeah, because it is just what works better on mobile. And then obviously, like you were saying earlier about the Diablo Immortal, the kind of PvP stuff being involved, that fits a little bit better into Chinese culture overall, where generally speaking, I may be a little bit generalizing here, but generally speaking, culturally, they have this, I guess it's more the wealth is part of your kind of power skill and gap and stuff like that. So instead of it being like, okay, we'll leave our wallets at the door and get into this like 1v1, as would kind of be more Western kind of ideas, they're more happy to bring whatever they have from their life into it, which then results in the kind of, it's the same way that Jurgen Stern would have talked about the oil baron and the sheik getting into a fight, or the Wall Street trader and the oil sheik getting into a fight, and it's just about how much money they can throw at it. That's kind of a little bit ingrained in Chinese culture, at least in terms of how like mobile games and stuff go. So that's kind of where all that strength comes from.
Yeah, so it's rough. It could be there just could be a period of time of lost revenue, and that would obviously be terrible for the business side of things.
Absolutely.
Now, the thing is that with Diablo, like, Diablo 3 came out in China as a part of a collab with NetEase.
Yes.
You know, they're used to localizing the Diablo franchise to China, right? So NetEase basically worked with Blizzard to ensure that D3 was acceptable to the Chinese censors and audiences, while also reworking the business model to appeal to that market a little bit more. And that is a fairly interesting thing. I mean, there's just a lot of differences. It's like why, you know, in World of Warcraft, like in the Chinese version, you don't have skeletons. That means that the Lich King expansion definitely looks a little bit different in that market.
Yeah.
So D3 came out in 2015 as a free-to-play game that did feature microtransactions and a premium currency. In many ways, the official Chinese release for D3 laid the groundwork for much of what we see in Immortal. And that really makes me wonder, like, is there any way we can get our hands on a copy of, like, Diablo 3 China? Like, log in, show you guys what it is? I don't know, but it would be kind of cool. So to just go for a quick, like, description here, this is probably going to be super, like, whack to you if you've played D3, the Western version. Now you're going to hear what the free-to-play version of D3 is. I suppose this is, like, an advanced version of this is, like the worst case of scenario for a D4. And, of course, Blizzard would have much of the telemetry in this as well, I'd imagine. So D3 in China is offered for free with the initial 5 classes up to level 70. The free content covers the basic game that's in other regions without Reaper of Souls. This is limited, though, to just 1 character and stash tab. As a part of patch 2.21, everyone has access to the Mystic for transmog and enchanting. Now, these 2 packages include Reaper of Souls content, the Crusader class, all the fun activities of Adventure Mode, including bounties and Nephilim Rifts, and Act 4, along with 4 stash tabs and 8 character slots. The Deluxe Digital is much like the similarly named edition of the game in the other regions. The Chinese Digital Deluxe gives you basically, a bunch of cosmetic stuff and then stuff for the other Blizzard games. But also, there's the Platinum currency. Platinum. Ever heard of that currency in Diablo Immortal? So the Platinum currency is used for both cosmetic and gameplay boosts in Diablo 3's Chinese edition. So there you go. D3 China is basically a beta test for this. They probably know that it converts super well. That's hardly a surprise because there have been other mobile-based ARPGs by NetEase that have done super well in that region as well.
Yeah, so just at a quick glance, there's literally like full pay to win in Diablo 3 China, where those gameplay bonuses that you get from Platinum do include gear, items, experience gain, gold found, stash-based cosmetics, character slots, the works. So it is like fully pay to win in the same sense of it looks actually a little bit worse in some basic ways. It looks a little bit worse in Immortal in the sense of very core stuff like experience gain. Whereas obviously Immortal does limit it to tries to limit it to the legendary gems. Obviously that bleeds into everything else. But it is like definitely full on Diablo Immortal is just, I guess, the Chinese SKU of Diablo, but for everyone.
Yeah, so pretty ghastly what they have to deal with over there.
Indeed.
Very different market. Now, one cool thing, though, is you could do a Quinn and have real money go away. Or we could, of course, go to the $25 Rift simulator that has been developed. It's pretty awesome. We just keep on, clicking the button. We just get virtual gems. And I can actually spam click this, and we'll see how long it takes until this system generates a 5-star legendary gem. So, we're at 26, 2,700. There's $3,000. You got yours at what, 3 and a bit grand?
Oh yeah, it was about $3,500 for one of the shots, one of the attempts, which is a lot better than the $16,000 it took Quinn.
There you go. I got mine at about $5,500.
Nice. Well, I've just rolled again, and I'm at about $6,500 and nothing yet. So.
Oh, nice. You can just click the calculate the cost of a 5 out of 5 gem. There you go. So I've spent $6,700 for 2 gems. Is that not incredible, everyone?
Oh man, 8.6K, and I got one. That's a steal. That's half price.
Yo, I'm getting lucky. I just dropped $7,500, and now I have 3.
Nice.
I mean, the heart of the cards is it is with me. Now here's the big thing. 8,700 for my 4th gem.
Nice.
I feel like Quinn really got unlucky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did. It was
5, 10 grand, 5, 5-star gems.
Yeah, so in terms of like, if assuming the data mine probabilities are accurate, we did work out that it is like $4,500 or so.
Yeah.
Is the if probability was fixed, that's how much it would be. But obviously that's not how probability works.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, it's just a funny little experiment. Yeah, you can probably just Google the $25 Rift simulator, and yeah, there you go. You can work that one out for yourself. It's pretty ghastly. So then, who is actually spending in Diablo Immortal? That's probably one of the things we want to know.
Yeah, because obviously by default you go, oh well, clearly it's the Chinese, but the game's not out in China yet.
So from what we understand, AppMagic is suggesting the majority of the revenue currently has been generated from the United States. Makes sense. US, large country, a lot of money. But also South Korea, where a business model like that is a little bit more of an accepted thing. 8% from Japan, 6% from Germany, 3% from Canada. And then, of course, we know that 16 grand of that did come from New Zealand.
Yeah, it is kind of worth pointing out how crazy that is that, compare the sizes of the US to South Korea and Japan in terms of population and stuff.
Well, Japan's about 120 million people.
Something like that, yeah. So that it looks like those are very disproportionately high compared to the US. But then I suppose, obviously, subset of the US population as people who'd want to play Diablo and stuff. But
so that's what's fascinating. The population of South Korea as of 2020 is 51.78 million people. And I may be out of date in America, but suffice to say, if the per capita spend in Diablo Immortal was the same, then America has 100 million people living in it. It has a lot more than 100 million people living in it.
Yeah, so that actually goes to show you exactly the strength of those being like normalized monetization models. Yeah. Because South Korea and Japan are punching... I mean, obviously Japan, not super traditionally interested in Diablo, as far as I'm aware. There's definitely some interest in it, especially because the original Diablo kind of hit their PC gaming market pretty hard, but their PC gaming market has traditionally been very small. It's only growing recently, but that is still them punching well above their weight. So you can imagine, like if South Korea is 22% of this revenue, and South Korea is a small enough country, but is that has the model accepted for payment-wise, then you look at China, and I imagine China would easily be just dwarf everything else.
So this is like very messy. After some quick Googling, right, so the GDP of China, again, numbers, who knows, if we just take all the numbers as given, GDP of China is $10,500 US. Sorry, GDP per capita. GDP per capita of South Korea, per like the official numbers and stuff, is 30 grand. Now, these numbers are flawed. They do not always mean the most for, got to deal with things like wealth inequality, etc., etc. But my point basically is a country of just shy of 52 million people produces this much revenue in a way that's so disproportionate to the per capita revenue of of the United States of America. You then see that, South Korea, massive free-to-play market. China's also a massive free-to-play market. And I think that just starts to kind of educate us how core the Chinese release of this game is going to be. Now, no doubt they're going to make a very clear profit, no matter what happens, even if the game doesn't come out in China. But I think a lot of their humongous wins will be in that market, as just a little bit of common sense extrapolation of all this can kind of tell us. Yep. Dmitry Bishinkov, who runs the Game Dev Report Substack, seems to have actually got the full report from AppMagic and posted it in his Substack, which, I mean, seems sketch. I feel like that's probably against the rules, but whatever. The data is now in the public domain. So Blizzard are saying 10 million installs. Per what they're tracking, it's 8.5 million downloads in 2 weeks.
Well, remember, this is only mobile stuff from AppMagic, so PC could be easily make up a lot of that.
Easily, yeah. Okay, fair, that makes sense. Yeah. So their estimation is 24.3 million revenue, 13 million App Store, 11.3 million from Google Play, a cumulative average revenue per user of $3.12. But if you're on an iPad, $6.67.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Swerve's analysis from 2019 say the average spend is close to like $24 or something like that overall from users in mobile stuff. So obviously, with the time that it takes wheels to get hooked, which Swerve reported to be about 21 days now, that means that this 24 million is the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And you can very much see that when you look at the actual revenue chart. You see, it's dipped a little tiny bit, but that's only 2 weeks. So that could very much that could be that thick, that could grow. It could maybe dip off a bit, but that could continue in perpetuity.
Well, I think there is one aspect of the funnel that is going to be a problem in the West, at least per my estimation. Okay, so Hell 2 dungeons require 4 players, and they have pretty stringent combat rating requirement and all of that. Now, in an ideal way, that is kind of using like some of the the network effect, right? You've got maybe 2 really strong friends. Maybe then the other 2 of you feel like you should really swipe to catch up with your friends so you can do these dungeons together. I wonder, though, if some of the mentality of the whale is just swipe, become, one person destruction machine, be super OP, kind of without the cooperative element. So I have to wonder if there's at least a subsection of super whales who will see that they need 3 other players and kind of like duck out of the game. Whereas maybe otherwise they would have just kept on spending. I'm not 100% sure. What will be very interesting, though, is if we are able to access this data, as you said, maybe day 21, day 30, day 60, see how the long tail is. What we have seen, though, is that the downloads have decreased, right? Of course, the most curious people are trying the game on launch, but they're still getting like 300k daily downloads in the following days, which is very good. The word of mouth stuff is quite interesting. Look, this game obviously is being very much rejected by PC gaming communities, console gaming communities, but if you actually look at the app stores, it does have pretty positive ratings. And, so we'll see a game like Clash of Clans, and we'll think, oh my god, there's actually the legs of a really good game in here, or a good enough game in here, but you've just destroyed it with a monetization. How could anyone ever give this stars? Yeah, you go to the App Store, and it is highly rated because the mobile gamers are, in many ways, a separate, distinct market that operate isolated from us with their own set of rules.
Yeah, because, exactly as they basically said whenever they revealed the game, it's not for PC gamers. They've kind of pivoted to kind of message a little bit that is perfectly fine for PC gamers and people who like more, like, I guess, the console-based Diablo as well. But now it is just full-on. This is for the mobile market, and we will see that as time goes. Because they're probably never going to see a lot of the kind of bad reviews or the bad headlines. Maybe the worst that'll happen is the user score on Metacritic being really low. And maybe if some of the... I don't think the reporting ever really reached kind of mainstream media stuff very much. Because obviously we're just over here playing video games. I don't really care that much. So it'd be interesting to see if that kind of goes. But the number I'm thinking about is the pre-registrations. Because they broke the 30 million pre-registration mark. And I believe NetEase said that 15 million of those pre-registrations were from China. So there are about, assuming the over 10 million that they reported isn't actually 11 million, assuming it's 10 million and one, just to keep that kind of accurate, there's like 5 million players that didn't show up. So it's hard to know if that's just like normal for I'll press pre-register, I haven't downloaded it yet because I've been busy, or I just forgot about it or whatever else, versus... Are there 5 million people who pre-regged, went, that game's ready to play. Should I play it? Googled it and went, maybe not. But that's just pure speculation on my end. We'll have to see how far that download trend continues.
Yeah, indeed. A note about the numbers. So AppMagic do say there's an allowance for discrepancies in their work. Basically, they say they try their best in accuracy because ultimately they don't have Blizzard's information, but... Yeah. They are experienced mobile game market analysts. So they say that for most apps, their daily discrepancy for revenues and downloads is less than 20%, and their monthly discrepancy is under 10%, which, it gives us the ballpark. I think that's basically all that we need.
Yeah, if I had to make a comment on that, it would be that because, I'm assuming their model is based on all the other data they have. And it's very data-driven, we know this game made this much revenue, so this game in this genre will make this much. I wonder if they factored in that this is Diablo, which is such a big name in the gaming market, in the gaming space. Will that actually reduce barriers to spend for a lot of people? Or something like that. But I guess... no, I don't know when we'll find out. Because I don't know if Blizzard will report revenue from this in any number. We'll be able to see some revenue on... basically come back in the first week of August.
Yeah,
because
it's
that'll be
if
their
this is the
report.
only major release,
Yeah.
we can kind of like average what their baseline without a major release revenue is and try to see a rough discrepancy.
Yeah.
And as for whether this is quite a success, I kind of did want to talk a little bit about this skill up tweet.
Yeah.
Because on the face of it, I get what he's saying, and I mean, like, I agree with him. Fuck this game. But there's a humongous but here. So, Diablo 3 made $210 million in its first 24 hours. So basically, Blizz worked 5 years to make a Diablo game that's roughly 10% as successful as a game they released 10 years ago. Plus, they snagged the lowest user score on Metacritic. Grats, Blizzard nailed it. So, D3 and 210 million. First 24 hours. Whereas this one is the first, 2 weeks? 24 million. Thing is, though, the recurring revenue for this game is going to be way higher than D3. That's like one thing. And then the other thing is it takes an average, you were saying, per swerve as of 2019 of 21 days for whales to like properly get hooked. And that number for whales is actually getting further and further out.
Yep.
So we still have not seen this game truly turn on in terms of its money-making potential because of that, and also because it hasn't been released in the Chinese market.
Yep, and even honestly, in terms of how much like the Indonesia and Hong Kong and Taiwan, that'll probably add a substantial boost too.
Yeah, true.
Without even releasing in mainland China. So that is a case of like, if you go back to the graphs from AppMagic of the downloads versus the revenue, if this were a full box product, and it is a massive assumption to say that it would sell the same amount of copies if we're a box product, because the whole reason to go free to play is to get more people in the door.
Yeah.
So even if you assume like all of those downloads would be full price sales, you would see the revenue graph would match the downloads graph, which means big up, and then no one downloads anymore, no one's paying anymore. That's when your money dries up. Whereas you extrapolate that revenue graph for another 20 weeks, another half a year, then you beat the $210 million.
And that graph could double in size when it comes out in China and those other regions.
Yeah, and also,
of course, for China.
Yeah, and also like 6 months or like 5-6 months, this could be going for years. Like we've seen with a lot of those properties, like Dungeon Fighter Online and stuff like that, where that just trucks for years and years. Sure, they have to spend money to update it, but generally speaking, that's where they go, okay, we've made the game, we can now make less game and get as much money from making the game in the first place. So it's like, I kind of get the point that they're absolutely destroying their own reputation, but I don't know how much that historically matters in the market, in the mass gaming market.
Yeah, we can both easily see this game making so much more money than Diablo 3.
Billions, I imagine.
Just
if it goes according to plan.
Not right now.
Yep.
It's just a different business model. So like D3 did end up with 30 million sales, 3.5 million first day, another 1.2 million for people, I suppose, like me at the time who had the World of Warcraft annual pass. That's obviously that's an incredible amount of success. But as time goes on, the sale price of each one of those copies of D3 goes lower and lower. With Immortal, though, it won't really happen like that. And one of the things that often happens in these games where whaling is a massive thing is they actually add on new whale-targeted systems that hit the sort of the more endgame experience. Now, I don't know if those things will come out in the West. I obviously don't know if they'll come out in China. But a few people I've just seen in comments and stuff like that just said, oh, no, like, look, I'm in China, I've played some of these games, or I was in China, or I just know how these games work. And often you do just have a new system. Like, how many games just add in a system where you can have one combat pet and then a humongous amount of like gacha and power-up upgrades for the little combat pet? I don't know if Immortal is going to do that, but those are the sorts of things that are just there that they could do and directly target the whales they have already hooked. Like there's the guy who, I think he was like more of a he admitted he was a whale. He was on Asmongold, or at least he did a video that Asmongold reacted to. And a lot of the language that he's saying about this game is like, I invested 50 grand in it. And the way that these, they see it as an investment. Like, this is a sort of platform I'm going to be in the long haul. And, for me, it's fun. I like gambling. This is a way that I can do like a different form of gambling. So I suppose that's for the people who, gambling is like a fun thing to them. They don't do it for money. It's just, I don't know, maybe they have so much disposable income. It kind of seems insane to me.
Yeah, well,
people are just gambling like years of a normal person's like life and upkeep. I don't know. Feels like that's not really a market working for the people. But maybe that's a discussion a bit broader and not for today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of see the same with streamers who kind of do it for raising the awareness, as they say, or, even just for the entertainment value of throwing a load of money into it. It's like, it's at that point where that kind of money doesn't really matter to them, and it is to just fundamentally pushing that sort of average user spend up substantially. So, I mean, even, obviously Quinn did it for protest, but that was $16,000 equivalent, and then he deleted his character. And, he deleted his character and uninstalled the game. Or, like, that's a good protest, but still gave him $16,000. And how many people will be doing that? Because it's like, well, isn't that their whole target, right? It's not, they don't target people who are going to have, like, they've got a couple grand in the bank and they're, weak to gambling stuff, so they lose it all, or they throw it all in the game and have a miserable time. At every point of development, they're going to go, we'll get a high average spend, and from people with more disposable income, from like the waifu JPEG model of lonely software engineers, they don't care if they're giving us a couple grand a month because it's nothing to them, but it's quite a bit to us.
Yeah, that, like, it's hard to get in the headspace, but, like, imagine you're talking to somebody that just has like 400 grand in their current account, which is like, it's kind of impossible to think about.
It is really difficult to think about, yeah.
But, like, that's who they're targeting. They're not targeting, like, us.
Yeah.
They're targeting people who have got such vast sums of money that, that they're doing at Quinn, but not as a protest. Like, even the guy Asmongold was, reacting to like 40 or 50 grand in the game. Probably thought he's going to invest another 40 or 50 grand. He had 1.2 million orbs.
Oh, Jesus.
Just sitting there. But it's like, to an individual like that, it's like they look at their bank account and like, oh, it's just 50 grand. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're, I don't know, maybe it's whatever, who knows.
Inherited billionaire money, I don't know.
But there's enough people for that to be the model. Remember when BioWare said that there were people who spent 14 grand on Mass Effect 3 loot boxes? Like, that is small compared to the things we are now regularly seeing with a game like Immortal. I think what Immortal is doing for those of us who are playing PC and console games is it's making us, like, more aware that there are so many more people out there than you would have thought that are willing to spend 20 grand on a game that has a whole bunch of gambling mechanics in it, or 30 grand or 40 grand or 50 grand. Now, you could make a great game for the lot of us, charge us 60, 70 bucks, and you know what? That's actually a pretty awesome business model. Works really well for Sony. We're all a big fan of this business model. We get some good value in return. But equally, there is another model out there where, you, me, and Matt, we all get the shitty version of the game, and somebody just spends 60 grand for the VIP experience.
Yep.
And we're actually finding out that perhaps there are so many humans on Earth, like, even though we're talking about a small percentage of wealth in society's just so big that you go fishing for whales and it works.
Yeah, I mean, here's some numerical examples from the Swerve 2019 report. So only 1.6% of people make an in-app purchase, but there's $23 average monthly spend per user. That's interesting.
Yeah.
64.5% of total revenue comes from the top 10% of paying players. The bottom 50% make up 3% of revenue.
There you go.
So almost all of the money does come from those kind of, oh yeah, I've got a couple $100 grand just kicking about, I might as well fire the Diablo Immortal. But I think the issue I take, because I mean, there's a world where you can hear all that and go, oh, well, that's fine, let them target that, let them make these shitty games for all these people to steal their money because they're rich and stupid, fuck them, is what I think a lot of people kind of come to the conclusion of. But I think the problem I have is so many people are caught in the crossfire because it is a like shotgun spread of monetization, gambling addiction tactics. And it's like, we'll hit a couple of whales. Maybe we'll kill however many plankton in the way, or even a couple of them will just be like destroyed by these tactics. But as long as we get the whales, we don't mind.
Yeah. And what that means is, like, at worst it's that and all the collateral damage. What it means is, like, even if you are somebody where, you don't have a problem gambling thing, you're never going to spend money in a game like this.
It's like me, yeah.
It does mean who's the game being made for? Because the people who control the money in a market, well, that's the people games are going to be made for. So if you want a StarCraft 3 or a Warcraft 4 or whatever sorts of game I think all of us would really like to see. I mean, you're going to pay $60 for that, maybe $70, maybe buy a skin or something. The guys who spend 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 grand in a video game are never going to play StarCraft 2 in that way.
No.
They might actually love StarCraft 2, to be clear, but there's no way that StarCraft 2 can be StarCraft 2 and have that amount of potential spending. So the people who are allocating capital in some of these companies, like, what are they going to allocate it towards? Obviously, as much as is feasible, something like this.
Yeah, because they're making money. They're in the business of making games to make money, not making games to make games. That's how it is.
Yeah, so I think that, like, as, you know, income disparity and wealth disparity and all those things, like, you know, increase and get worse and worse, like, there's always going to be indies and, you know, full price AAAs for all of us.
Always,
to
yes.
just, you know, buy fair price, get a whole bunch of game. But I think the potential for severe whaling, like 14 grand in Mass Effect 3 blew our minds in the past. Now 50 grand or 100 grand into a free-to-play game.
No one bats an eyelid.
No one bats an eyelid. Like, I remember when that was first being reported on some of the gacha games, those of us in the West were all like, oh, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe this. And now it's completely normalized.
Yeah.
You know, at worst, it's taking the piss out of Rich Campbell.
Yep.
Absolutely. You know, at worst, it's just they're taking the hand out of Rich in an OTK thing. But, you know, we're all just sort of joking and laughing about it. But actually, it's became normal.
Yeah. I mean...
Spooky shit.
Like, Genshin Impact was reported earlier this year to be making roughly $1 billion every 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's all gacha monetization. That's like there's... I think you can buy a couple of cosmetics now. But it is all just monetizing the gacha rules, effectively speaking.
And that's not people with the monthly, like, what's it called? The monthly...
Or the Welkin Blessing, whatever it is. The monthly pass of like £5 or something like that.
Yeah, that's not people paying £5 a month for a game that's actually pretty brilliant with loads of content.
Yeah.
That is people seeing the latest banner and going insane. Mm-hmm. Well, may not... You know, insane. It is what it is to whoever. But yes. It is people seeing the latest banner and just thinking, right, I don't care if it costs $5 grand. I'm going to get the 5-star character. Yep. Because that's the one being shown in the banner. Let's not think about how tiny the percentage of getting this character is. I can put enough money in and make it happen. I'll do that. I'm a remote working software engineer who makes 225 grand a year. Friggin' somehow.
Yeah, I mean, even the way Genshin's like gacha culture has evolved around that is the whole 50-50 thing, where people don't even expect to get the character without hitting pity. The chances are so low. So the whole culture of it is designed around tracking your rolls and knowing, oh, I'm about to hit 90, so I'll save my 90th roll, my pity roll, for the banner that I want. And then even then, that's not designed to be, oh, I've saved up my pity, I'll get the character I want. It's, I've saved up my pity, and the way this is designed is every new banner will have a 5-star character that's new and a 5-star character that's not. So it's literally a 50-50. You roll 89 dice into the void to get one coin toss to get the character you want.
$150, $200 before you hit pity?
I can't remember exactly how much it is.
Okay.
But it is like $200 to $300, something like that there. So I think so anyway.
So
don't quote me on that.
I mean, really, there you go. We're all learning more about the mobile market, and I think we're kind of getting ready. You know, we're almost on the battlements waiting for whenever this comes to PC.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? It's this whole schism where it's now that's where the money is with the least amount of effort. So obviously the companies who want to make money first will just go do that. So it is up to us to stand and go, if you want to do that, fucking feel free. Just not where we are. We don't want that, so go do that somewhere else. Obviously it'd be nice to say, okay, you're not allowed to do that because you're using exploitative means to do it, so stop. You can't exactly do that because, well, good luck trying to lobby for any of this. But I guess that's the thing. If it is just a schism, we have to make sure not to fall for it and kind of go, okay, nope, over there. You can fuck around all you want, but do it in the sandbox over there instead of our beautiful quality game castle.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Diablo 4, if you're going to give me a bunch of free post-launch content supported by a few cosmetics in the store,
sweet.
Have at it. Fine.
Yep.
If you start selling me stash tabs in a $60 game, because we're not worried that this is literally going to happen immediately. We're worried that 5% of this will make it into Diablo 4.
That's all it takes.
Right? because much like how this game's introductory bundles are the thin end of the wedge, and then it gets very thick until suddenly it's €50 for a bundle. Like, that's how it's going to work. That's how it's always worked with fostering adoption of new business models. We beat back the loot boxes. Overwatch 2, funny enough, isn't even going to have loot boxes because I think they know how that will be received, and also maybe they understand a little bit more of the legislative environment.
Yep.
So ultimately, we just kind of just need to stay on message, really.
Yeah, and if you hear that and go, no, that's the slippery slope fallacy, that won't happen. Let me read you a quote from, this was the Diablo 3 director Jay Wilson talking at GDC about the core design pillars of Diablo 3.
Beautiful.
This was after he had left Blizzard, I believe, or it was just around the end when he was finished. And I can't remember if this was after Reaper of Souls had released or not, but what he said about the auction house specifically is, what I want is to kill this guy, he had a picture of Diablo on screen, and have cool stuff drop and get items. This is actually what happened. If anyone can't see, it says, and then he flips over to a slide, and it's just Batman and Iron Man, and it's just one of those old meme image formats where it says money, best superpower ever. It's not good for a game like Diablo. It doesn't feel good to get items from money. You want to get items from killing monsters. That was he said that in 2013, around that. That game released over 10 years ago. That warning's fallen completely on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to make a game feel good like Diablo. They want a game that makes them loads of money. And
that's it.
Yeah, at least this delay in China could be positive. I hope it is. I would love nothing more than to wake up and to see, Xi Jinping himself has said, fuck this game, you're not allowed to release it here. But I doubt that'll happen. It'll likely be a case of this will just take another 6 months or a year to release. NetEase will get a slap on the wrist and off they go.
Yeah. So there we have it. You now know the money that's been made, as well as some of the worries that Blizzard no doubt are having over the Chinese release of this game. We'll keep you up to date with all developments. I have recorded my review of this game, which will be, as somebody who bothered to play it, my final word. Unless there is a humongous scale change to how this game works, I will not touch it again. I don't particularly have kind words, so at the very least you might enjoy it when it comes out over on the Bellular Gaming channel. This is the news channel, over on the gaming channel, probably in a few days. But with that said, I think that's it for me and Matt today.
Absolutely.
We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, hang in there. Goodbye.